Hello and welcome back, everyone. As I'm sitting here recording this, it is 1 week till Christmas of the year 2020. It's been a rough year for a lot of people. We've dealt with the COVID 19, we've dealt with shutdowns and NTI, and we had an election this year, but that's all behind us now. As I said, it's 1 week until Christmas, the biggest holiday of the year for a lot of people. So I decided that on tonight's episode of Talking Paranormal, we are going to look at Christmas. Christmas is a Christian festival celebrating the birth of Jesus, or Mass of Christ. Before the term Christmas was coined, the original term used was Yule, which was Germanic in origin, and it referred to December 21st, the winter solstice, the longest night of the year and the shortest day. What some of you may not know is that some of our Christmas traditions were pagan in origin, and tonight we're going to explore them. So turn down the lights, get yourself some hot cocoa, and make yourself comfortable as I begin talking paranormal. Tonight's episode is going to have three separate sections, we'll call them. The first is going to be the pagan origins, traditions with pagan origins. The second is going to be some haunted paranormal stories that I found that circulate on or around the Christmas holiday itself, December 24th and 25th. And finally, we're going to look at other countries' version of Santa Claus. So, with no further delay, let's get started. This first segment is going to be a little on the shorter side. There's not a lot to really research and dive into. I just wanted to come up with the seven, I'm going to call them decorations and traditions that we use today in our Christmas celebration that really came from the pagan origin. First up is holly. We all know that little pointed edged leaf with the red berries. Well, pagans revered holly for its medicinal properties and gave it to each other as a sign of prosperity for the coming year, usually in a form of a wreath. These wreaths were hung on doors and windows, and it was also a sign of prosperity for the coming year and to signal the rebirth of the new year. In other words, the days started getting longer after the winter solstice. Number two is mistletoe. Now, I didn't know this when I was researching this video. It turns out that mistletoe was revered as a sacred plant by Celts and the Nordic people. Druids believed that mistletoe could protect against thunder and lightning. Also, it was recognized as a symbol of joy and peace. If two enemies met under woodland mistletoe, they were obligated to put down their weapons until the next day under a truce. This is where kissing under a mistletoe came from. Number three is caroling. Carols have been sung for thousands of years. Originally, they were songs about celebrations surrounding the winter solstice. The word carol actually means song or dance. Now, this is one of my favorites, the Yule log. Now, I don't have a fireplace, but we do watch the Yule log on Netflix, I think it is now. They have several different ones where they burn a log and the fire's burning and they play music in the background. But the Yule log is a reminder of the times when pagans would have bonfires during the winter solstice. The Yule log played a major role in the festivities, with a piece of the previous year's log being saved to start the fire of the following year. And it was traditionally considered unlucky to buy a log. It should be harvested from the householder's land or received as a gift. Number five on the list are candles. Throughout history, candles were used to ward off evil and darkness. Yes, I really did just explain that to you, but that's how it was. I found it in my research. I can't make this stuff up. The first use of candles in December was during the Saturnalia festival. Pagans also used candles during Yule festivities along with bonfires to welcome the nights beginning to get shorter. As Christianity became more widespread, people put candles in the front windows to guide Jesus as he went from house to house. Another fact I was unaware of before I did this video: traditionally, represented fertility and believed that the green leaves and the red berries, such as holly, helped bring them through the roughest winters. Last but not least, in this segment, we have Christmas itself. As I mentioned, Christmas was meant to celebrate the birth of Jesus Christ, but some historians have placed his birth in August and some actually in the spring. Nevertheless, in order to convert the pagans, Christians told them that there was a holiday and it was the birth of Jesus Christ, and it fell only 4 days following theirs, which was, as we mentioned, the winter solstice. So they convinced the pagans to combine the 2 days into what we now know as Christmas, which is why we use a tree, the Yule log, as well as other traditions and decorations that we've covered here tonight. Up next, we have a few ghost stories that I'm going to share with you that happen on or around Christmas Day. Number one is the Walwell Castle. Poland's Walwell Castle was built on, yeah, you guessed it, Walwell Hill. People weren't very creative in the naming of things back then, and this was in the early 1500s. Within the hall lies a deep cave called, I'm going to screw this up, Smakza Jama, Dragon's Den. Legend tells of a dragon that lived there and terrorized locals. And one day, a brave prince named Krak, K-R-A-K, I'm not making this stuff up, came to Walwell Castle and killed the dragon. Now, legend has it that somewhere deep within the cave that the castle was built on, there is an unused chamber that is said to be a meeting place for long dead kings to hold a spectral council every December 24th. Crescent Hotel. The Crescent Hotel in Eureka Springs, Arkansas was built in 1886 and is rumored to be the home of several ghosts who seem to be especially active during the holidays. One Christmas, the staff found a Christmas tree that had been decorated was moved from one side of the room to the other. Another year, all of the menus that were stacked on the table had been tossed all over the floor of the dining room. Visitors to the hotel have often reported seeing ghostly apparitions dancing in the main ballroom, all clad in Victorian-era clothing. Now, this next story has several different versions of it. This is the legend of the Mistletoe Bride. Although the true origin of the story is hard to determine, many believe its roots are in the disappearance of Lord Lovell's bride at the Branshill House in Hampshire, England. According to legend, Lord Lovell was preparing to wed a young woman related to a Sir John Cope, who was the owner of Branshill House, and the wedding was to take place on Christmas Day. So, mistletoe was hung throughout the mansion, and this inspired the wedding party to play a game of hide and seek. The bride was to hide within the mansion, and the groomsmen would all search for her. The one who found her got to give her a kiss. The game started and the search commenced. But minutes turned to hours, and hours turned to days, and all those searching could not find the bride. Nearly 50 years later, Lord Lovell finally found his bride. One afternoon, he stumbled upon a secret closet in an upstairs bedroom of Bramshill Manor. Inside, he found a chest that was locked shut. He opened the chest, and inside was the remains of his beloved. It is said that her spirit roams the halls of the manor every Christmas since. Moving on to the Brown Lady of Rainham Hall. The Brown Lady of Rainham Hall has perplexed visitors and paranormal investigators alike for hundreds of years. In the 1700s, Charles Townshend married a young woman named Dorothy Walpole. Soon, Townshend became suspicious that his new wife was being unfaithful. He eventually drove himself mad with jealousy, so he hid Dorothy away in Rainham Hall. He told friends and family that she had actually passed away tragically. Dorothy was forced to stay inside the mansion and was only allowed to wander its halls. Eventually, she did die, never having left Rainham Hall. People visiting Rainham Hall have witnessed the image of a woman in a tattered brown dress wandering its halls. One visitor, unaware of the legend, approached the woman in the hall, only to have her look at him with a glowing face, but her eyes were missing, leaving only empty sockets. Years later, a photographer from Country Life magazine visited Rainham Hall to do an article. While he was reviewing the photographs he had taken, he was looking at one of the central staircase, and he saw the image of a hazy silhouette that many believe is none other than Dorothy Walpole, the Brown Lady. I really enjoyed this next one. A particular group of ghosts from the Stark, not Tony, family have created quite a legacy for themselves. The Starks left behind numerous spirits that are now haunting an old Victorian home in Ludington, Michigan. Visitors have reported numerous sightings at the home, especially around Christmas time. One spirit that is unusually active is Vera Stark. Known for her bizarreness in life, it seems she took them to the afterlife with her. Those who have seen her ghost say she appears on the front yard of the house picking flowers like she did in real life. Another spirit is the ghost of one of the Stark daughters. She had suffered a terrible mishap in the mansion's gymnasium, and now she can be allegedly seen roaming the hallways. The owners once tried to open it to public tours, but the spirits had other ideas and did not care for strangers in their house, and they simply went wild until the owners stopped letting people in. Roos Hall in Suffolk lays claim to being one of the most haunted houses in England. It includes a gruesome location called the Hanging Tree, an old oak planted at the site of an old gibbet or gallows where numerous criminals were hung. There is also the story that inside one of the halls there's a cupboard that has the mark of the devil's cloven hoof. One of the most horrifying stories is that of the Headless Horseman. Many of you are familiar with the legend written by Washington Irving, but here it takes on a life of its own. Visitors to Roos Hall report a man riding a horse toward them only to discover as he gets closer that he has no head. On Christmas Eve, he is often encountered riding down the driveway pulling a phantom coach behind 4 horses. Our last story is that on December 25th in 1890, a headline appeared in the front page of a Victorian newspaper, the Daily Colonist. Just as the clock struck midnight, a dark and cowardly act was committed. The target was a man named David Fee. He was a mere 21 years old and was on his way to see his parents for evening mass at a nearby church. David Fee had just left the costume party and was standing on the street corner dressed in a white clown costume. David had arrived at the street corner just outside of the cathedral when a man burst out from the shadows, aimed a double-barreled gun at him, and simply said, "You've challenged me." Before David could say a word, the man pulled the trigger, killing him almost instantly. Since that night, it is said that David Fee roams the streets outside of the cathedral every Christmas Eve looking for his parents. Well, we've covered a lot in this short episode, but we still have more to go. So I've been sitting here trying to figure out how to describe this next segment, and the only thing I can come up with is foreign countries' holiday figures. That's it. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get into that, and I'm going to apologize right now if I massacre these names or it just sounds weird. These were found during my research, so here we go. Up first, we have Belsnickel. In German, Bells translates into fur, and nickel refers to St. Nicholas. So, simply put, Belsnickel is St. Nicholas in furs or pelts. And this German folklore figure does indeed hand out the occasional gift like Santa, even carrying a bag of candy and nuts for good little boys and girls. But this is where the similarities end. Instead of wearing a nice coat, Belsnickel's furs are dirty and grimy, and while St. Nick will leave coal for naughty children, Belsnickel will actually whip the children with a switch across their backs. Not something you want done today. Moving along to La Befana. Just because someone is scary looking does not mean they are scary as a person. La Befana may look like an old hag, but this Italian witch is not a creature of Halloween. She is actually associated with the Epiphany, which is a post-Christmas observance that celebrates the arrival of the three wise men in Bethlehem. Legend has it that La Befana was asked to join the three wise men but declined, as she had too much work to do. She eventually realized her mistake and tried to catch up, but was unable to do so. Exhausted on the eve of their arrival in Bethlehem, she threw herself under a tree, and a branch from that tree became her magical broomstick, allowing her to fly looking for the baby Jesus. Today, La Befana appears during and just before Epiphany events, giving treats and small gifts to good children or leaving the gifts by their house like Santa Claus. This next one is kind of interesting. Not all witches that appear this time of the year are good. Gryla hails from Icelandic folklore and is more interested in eating children instead of giving them treats. Gryla is said to come down from her mountain and seek out naughty children. She collects them in her sack and carries them back to her mountain cave to cook them in a stew. Gryla is often a hideous-looking witch with horns on her head, a tail, and a wart-covered nose. This is everyone's Christmas visitor I think you would not want coming to see you. Now, this one I thought was interesting because I happen to be a cat lover. The Yule Cat, also known, oh my god, I'm going to tear this apart. You know what? I'm not even going to try to pronounce it. I'm just going to put it up on a video. I'll let you try to figure it out. But it is a native Icelandic folklore that the Yule Cat is a very fashion-conscious Christmas monster. This not-so-festive feline towers over houses, peeking in to see if children have gotten new clothes since last Christmas or for the holiday this year. If they did, they were safe and the Yule Cat would move on to the next house. If not, the child would be gobbled up, providing Gryla didn't beat the Yule Cat there first. So, the next time you're bummed out about getting socks, underwear, or that ugly sweater for Christmas, just remember, your family is actually trying to keep you safe and protect you from the Yule Cat. Next is a Welsh skeletal horse spirit. Mari Lwyd, or Y Fairy Lwyd in Welsh, is a custom in which revelers will visit your home while carrying a horse skull that has been decked out during the holidays with ribbons, bells, and a sheet to give the whole thing a ghastly appearance. The Mari Lwyd troupe will engage the owner in a battle of verses and insults. Evidently, it's like an ancient rap battle. If the troupe has the cleverest rhymes, they are allowed in for food and drinks, while Mari Lwyd will scare away anything unwanted from that year. Even if the owner wins, the troupe is still let in, given food and drinks, and welcomed. My favorite one of all time. We actually start our Christmas season off watching this movie. It's Krampus. Perhaps one of the best known of the scary Christmas legends is that of Krampus. This legend starts in Central European traditions. Krampus dates back to pre-Christian times. The name is derived from Krampen, claws, an appropriate name given it is often a demonic-looking creature with claws, horns, and a very long tongue. Krampus hauls off naughty children in a large sack to snack on them later. People celebrate Krampus with festivals before Christmas, dressing up as scary figures as a way to balance the now very sweet traditions of Christmas. Krampus is often looked at as the complete opposite of Santa Claus. Santa is the saint, and Krampus is the sinner, yin and yang. Well, that's all I really have for you today for this holiday edition. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed producing it. I wish you all the very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, whatever you celebrate. I know I'm going to have one next week. Don't forget to, hit the buttons, like, subscribe, and notification bell so you up to date when we upload new videos and new content. I pushed some things around this for this episode to fit in for the Christmas holiday. I appreciate everyone tuning in, and you all have a great evening. And I think it's time we just stopped talking paranormal.